The Portfolio Committee on Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development has started public hearings to amend the Land Tenure Rights Act of 1991. The process will provide for the application for the conversion of land tenure rights into ownership and other land matters. The committee has so far heard stakeholders from women's organizations, labor and individuals. These relate to the ownership of land and right to tenure reform. The hearings have also heard how women have been excluded from the right to ownership of homes and land due to Customary Marriages Act. Joining us is Zweli Velile Mandela, Chairman of the Portfolio Committee on Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development. A very good morning to you, sir, and thank you for your time. Now, you held your first public hearing on this upgrading of the Land Tenure Rights Amendment Bill. Judging from the many factors that come with really this controversial matter, what are some of the updates that you have following your first public hearing?
Well, for us, we have had a successful two-day public hearing for the upgrading of the land tenure rights, which is aiming to amend the Act of 1991 so as to provide for the application for the conversion of land tenure rights to ownership. We've received a number of activist organizations and representatives of communities, as well as women groups that advocate for women ownership of land. We received about 110 submissions, which we have had over 40 of them in the past 2 days. There has been already about 480 submissions that would like to present orally, which has required the Portfolio Committee to ask for an extension for 2.5 days from Parliament next week, ending on the week of the 28th of August. The women, particularly coming from the National House of Traditional Leaders, as well as Contralesa and from NGOs and civil society, were able to come and testify and give evidence as to what the issues women are experiencing. But I think also one of the important calls that was made was for single mothers that are raising their own children without a real land tenure right. And they are looking to ensure that, particularly in traditional leaders' communal lands, that women are able to be afforded the right to land.
Now, as you speak about the very important impact of women advocating for women ownership of land and the various women in different sectors, we know that you'll be faced by a big challenge here with the Ingonyama Trust saying that this bill to address women's access to land tenure shouldn't apply to its land. How are you hoping to move around that very major obstacle?
Well, for us as a committee right now is to afford an opportunity to all stakeholders to have their say. And once we have consolidated everything that we've been able to receive through the public hearings, as a committee we will have to deliberate on these issues. We must point out that we are not a committee of Ingonyama Trust Board, but a committee of the Parliament of the Republic of South Africa, and therefore that we have to take into account all the inputs that have been made from all spheres to ensure that the women across the landscape of the land of the Republic of South Africa are afforded an opportunity to have equal land tenure rights.
Now, as you set out in going about your work, what are the main achievements that you're hoping to really look behind and be proud of through this bill, and the major changes that you're hoping will have an impact on the lives of millions of people?
The most important thing for us in looking at the bill is to give sufficient information to interested persons on an application to convert the land tenure into an ownership. But we also seek to provide an opportunity for the interested persons to object to the conversion of land tenure rights into ownership if they so wish to. But there is also a provision for the institution of inquiries to assist in the determination of the land tenure rights and for the application to court by an aggrieved person for an appropriate relief. And lastly, to provide for the recognition of the conversion that effect in good faith in the past. So these will enable those aggrieved persons and women in particular, and we are biased to African women, should be able to state their cases where there's grievances over a land tenure right, and we should be able to ensure that women, particularly in rural areas, are able to access land.